Hi everybody, in this video I will provide an overview of the quantitative and qualitative article critique assignment that is due Sunday of week 6. You'll find that under major projects and assignments on the course page. So the qualitative article critique due Sunday in week 6. This is 20% of your final grade. So the first step in this process you already completed back in week 2, where you were asked to identify either a quantitative or qualitative research article that you'd be working with. And the criteria for that was that it had to come from a peer-reviewed journal, it should be less than 10 years old, the authors must have conducted the review of the literature, and it must be at least 10 pages in length. And you all have uploaded those articles and I've approved those, so you're all good to go with that and have already earned 1 point toward this assignment, which is great. You're already a little bit ahead of the game. So in preparing for your quantitative or qualitative article critique, before you begin writing that, you're going to want to review these resources that you see here. And these have been compiled to help guide you in your critique. The knowledge that you're gaining about the research process through the textbook is also going to be helpful in understanding the methodology used by the researchers in the article that you're critiquing. And these resources below focus specifically on understanding and critiquing research articles. And they sort of extend the general knowledge about research methodology that you've been reading about and learning from your textbook. They're sort of applying it to what it looks like when we're critiquing in a published form. So you have several readings here. You have a step-by-step guide to critiquing research, part 1, quantitative research by Coughlin, Cronin, and Ryan. You have the Dane article on reading a research report. You have the Halasko Primer for Critiquing Social Research, a student guide, and there are some excerpts from this text that cover writing clarity and readability, critiquing the title, the abstract, the references, the lit review, the purpose, the sample discussion, and the limitations. And the Halasko, actually, we used to use a textbook by Halasko in this course. And it's a really useful and very user-friendly guide to critiquing those aspects of research articles. And then finally, you have a step-by-step guide to critiquing research, part 2, focusing on qualitative research this time by Ryan, Coughlin, and Cronin. So if you know you have a qualitative article, you'll probably want to focus on this guide. And if you have a quantitative one, you're going to focus on the quantitative research one. So make sure you're using the correct guide based on the article that you have. And these others in the middle here will be useful, I think, to regardless of whether you're doing quantitative or qualitative, they will be useful either way. So that's sort of the preparation for writing the article critique. The actual writing of the qualitative article critique, each student is going to turn in a critique based on their approved article. And this is a paper, academic paper, scholarly paper that should be organized with headings and subheadings, addressing each area in the rubric below, and we're going to get to that in a minute. The length of the paper should be approximately 1,200 to 1,500 words. You need to make sure that you're incorporating and citing the Halasko, the week 2 Dane article that you read, and then the Coughlin, Cronin, and Ryan articles above throughout your critique of each section of the article, okay? So you're going to have headings and subheadings, and in each section you want to make sure that you're applying one or more of those readings in each of those sections. In describing each section of your article, you are to paraphrase as much as possible, and please limit direct quote usage. Excuse me. You should really only be using direct quotes if there is absolutely no way to paraphrase and cite what it is that needs to be said. And if you are using direct quotes, they should really be used sparingly. They shouldn't be lengthy direct quotes. Excuse me. You should also briefly and concisely describe each section. The critique is more important than the description of the article itself. So you're going to have to describe what is in your article, but what I'm most concerned about is the critique of what's in the article. Absolutely make sure you're using APA format, that goes without saying. You should have a title page, in-text citations, and a reference page. And again, there's a note here on paraphrasing versus direct quote, which pretty much reiterates what I just said. We should really only use direct quotes sparingly to emphasize ideas when there's no other way to explain them in your own words. So the research question, for example, that will always be a quote, right? Because a research question, you're probably not going to really be able to rephrase that necessarily. But when you're using quotes as the majority of the writing, it becomes a problem because it's less about your words and your ability to interpret and critique and more about restating the author's words. So again, also remember, even when you're paraphrasing, you should be citing using proper in-text citation format. And if you are unsure about how to paraphrase properly, there is a video here that will help guide you through that as well. So moving on to the rubric and what you're actually going to be doing in this critique. So you can all give yourselves 1 point off the bat because you've already submitted the article. You are going to first provide an overview of the article in your own words. That's worth up to 2 points. You are going to describe the title, abstract, and purpose of the article and then critique that, again, applying the readings above that I mentioned. You are going to describe and critique the literature review section of the article, again, applying the readings. You're going to describe and critique the sample and sampling method. Okay, make sure you're discussing how many people were in the sample and what sampling method was used, what kind of sample it is, whether it's a convenience sample, a random sample, whatever type of sample it was. You're going to describe and critique the data collection method used. You're going to describe and critique the major findings. You'll describe and critique study limitations and recommendations for future research. You will analyze and critique the article's references. And then you want to make sure that your writing is, that the writing clarity and readability of the article is critiqued. And finally, you want to discuss the importance of the article's topic and the problem described in relation to social work practice. And that's kind of like the so what or the who cares of the study. So, the researchers have done this study, but so what? What are the implications for social work practice? Who's impacted by this study? Who might benefit from this study, or how can this can this study help in terms of maybe moving an evidence-based practice forward? So that's the content of your paper. That's your critique content. You also will be graded on writing skills. This is your writing skills now, not the writing skills of the article author. You want to make sure you have a clear thesis statement and that the thesis addresses the assigned topic. You want to make sure you have clear and effective transitions between your ideas and your thoughts and your paragraphs. You want to have exceptional organization, structure, and coherence. So your ideas, concepts, and principles should be presented in an engaging, thoughtful, and consistent fashion. Multiple conclusions and implications follow from the thesis and data, so your paper should make sense. There should be an order to it, and it builds to a relevant case. You want to make sure your citations are well integrated to support the thesis. Certainly provide supporting evidence for all information. Again, direct quotations are kept to a minimum, and when used, they're well contextualized within your own thinking. You're not just simply restating what the author said. Your language is clear with any technical terms defined or explained. Few errors in grammar, spelling, and punctuation, and few errors in sentence structure. And finally, APA style. Make sure you're using 12-point Times New Roman font, 1-inch margins, page headers. You want to make sure all APA components are present and correctly formatted. So that's your title page and your reference page. Your paper should be written in a scholarly style. You want to make sure you have effective headings and subheadings that are included and that are formatted in APA style. And you want to make sure all sources are correctly cited, of course, in APA format in the in-text citations and on the reference page. And there's a number of resources under student resources related to APA. I know APA is a pain. I mean, I have been a student too, and I am still, required to use APA in my day-to-day life. And I know it's a pain, but it's one of those necessary evils that we all have to deal with. So this paper is worth 35 possible points. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out, preferably sooner rather than later. I'm posting this a little bit in advance so that you have time to get started on it. It's not something I wouldn't leave it till the last minute if I was doing it. But you can really use this critique content to organize your paper. That would be the one suggestion I would make. This pretty much gives you an outline here to follow of what you should be including in your paper, and will help you with your headings and subheadings. So I think that's it. I enjoy this assignment because I get to become familiar with a wide variety of research, and often on research topics that are outside of my own area of expertise. So I find this assignment really interesting. I enjoy reading these papers. Hopefully you selected an article that you know, is of interest to you too, which will make this hopefully a little more fun for you. But I really do look forward to reading these. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. If writing is not your strong point, and I know it isn't for everybody, please take advantage of the resources available to you through Widener. I know that there are a number of resources under student resources. I know there's a writing center. I believe there is some tutoring available if that's something that would be helpful to you. So please take advantage of the things available to you through Widener if writing is challenging for you. Okay, I think that's it. If anyone has any questions, again, please feel free to reach out, and I look forward to reading these assignments.